Ben Franklin's city. Colonial Philadelphia could be considered almost as much the creation of Benjamin Franklin as it was to William Penn. It was true that when Franklin opened his printing shop in Philadelphia in 1728, this important city already was 46 years old. But it also was a city without organized firefighters, an effective police force, or a hospital. These and other improvements would be Franklin's contributions. Even before opening his printing shop, Franklin had formed a club in Philadelphia called the Junto. Devoted to self-improvement and community service, its members helped Franklin bring about many important changes in the city over time. The first library. The Junto's first project was to create a library. Since books were expensive and Philadelphia had no public libraries, Franklin suggested that the Junto form its own library by having each member contribute books to a common supply. This worked so well that Franklin decided to form a subscription library, which anyone could join by paying an annual fee. These fees collected paid for the purchase of books as well as a librarian. This became known as America's first paid. No, that doesn't make sense. Hang on. Circulating library. In a way, it also could be considered America's first free public library, since every non-member could use the books if they read them inside the building. Fire, police, and safety. Franklin's next project was to improve the city's firefighting services. The volunteers who fought Philadelphia's fires often had no equipment. They also had little knowledge of the best ways to save homes, businesses, and other buildings from destruction. Franklin believed that well-organized volunteer companies could be formed. They could raise money for equipment, train their members, and fight all the fires within their districts. Franklin started the first fire company himself. Others soon followed. Franklin later wrote that he believed there were no city in the world where the fires were put out more quickly than in Philadelphia. With the city safer from fire, Franklin tackled crime. Philadelphia had a police system of sorts. Constables were appointed to protect the areas of the city, and property owners were supposed to help them by taking turns patrolling the streets at night. However, most citizens paid to have substitutes take their place. Constables would use a small part of their money to hire riffraff as patrolmen and keep the rest for themselves. All too often, the substitutes spent their time drinking in taverns instead of patrolling. Franklin proposed to raise money through a property tax to pay for respectable, full-time police officers. For many years, Philadelphia's political leaders opposed this plan, but it was finally adopted in 1752. Scientific and intellectual societies. Franklin next established America's first scientific society. As a writer and publisher of newspapers, books, and magazines, he had done his best to keep Philadelphians well informed. When he became Philadelphia's postmaster, Franklin reformed many communication with other colonies easier, cheaper, and faster. Franklin even became head of the postal service for all the colonies. But Franklin wanted to do something to keep the colonial scientists up to date with new ideas and discoveries. So he started the American Philosophical Society. Since Philadelphia was its headquarters, the city benefited most from its information. But even with an organization for the advancement of science, the colony still had only 4 colleges: Harvard, Princeton, William and Mary, and Yale. And none of them were in Pennsylvania. In 1749, Franklin wrote a pamphlet describing the college he felt Pennsylvania should establish. This resulted in a widespread support for the idea. The Academia and College of Philadelphia, the University of Pennsylvania, was founded in 1751. The first hospital. Thomas Bond provided Franklin with the next project. Bond was a physician who wanted to build a hospital like those he had seen in Europe. He had no luck gaining support for his plan until he went to Franklin, who liked the idea and agreed to take charge of fundraising. Franklin was so successful that nearly every wealthy or middle-class Philadelphian contributed to the building of America's first hospital. The Pennsylvania Hospital soon became world famous, especially for its treatment of the mentally ill. A clean, bright, safe city. Another problem Philadelphia faced was its unpaved streets. In wet weather, the roads were muddy. In dry weather, dust blew everywhere. Franklin campaigned for the paving of Philadelphia's streets and then organized a merchants' association to fund their sweeping. He also joined another campaign aimed at lighting the dark streets at night. Franklin even invented a lamp that made the city brighter than London. Dark, dirty, muddy Philadelphia became bright, clean, and safe. All of this progress took place between 1730 and 1757 and resulted in a city many believed was the second greatest after London in the British Empire. Not all of these improvements began with Franklin, and each one became possible only through the hard work and financial support of many. Nevertheless, it is still tempting to call Philadelphia the Philadelphia of the mid-1700s, Ben Franklin's city.